Okay, so recording's on. Hello, welcome to today's Career Insight Lunch and Learn. If you're with me live, give a shout out in the chat bar. Who are you? Where are you from? Is this your first time? Have you been here before? It's always lovely to know who's listening. So just type away in the chat bar there. If we haven't met before, my name is Julie Cullen and I specialise in helping women build their confidence in the workplace. And so what we're doing today is one of a series of lunch and learns that I do every Friday lunchtime. We've done things like confidently speak up in meetings, how to develop your strategic career, or your strategic network, and how to stop sabotaging your career, how to talk confidently about your achievements, which I know some people struggle with. And last week we were actually talking about your performance review and how to impress your boss at your performance review. So if any of that sounds of interest to you and you would like to see the replays, I've just put a link in the comments there. You can just click on that, go and drop your name and your email address in there, and it will take you to a page where you can access all my replays. Okay, but this week we are going to start talking about perfectionism. So tell me, I want you to start thinking about how perfectionism impacts on you. Okay, both professionally and personally, because if you're a perfectionist, it probably impacts both areas of your life. So tell me why you feel you're a perfectionist. Drop it in the comments. Let me know. What are your perfectionist tendencies? So for some people, it's because you fear you're making mistakes, or maybe you constantly worry that your work isn't good enough. Maybe you're reluctant to take risks, or you struggle to delegate. It's a big one. So you micromanage your team or your family, or you persistently do it yourself because you know then it will be done right. Okay, what about you? Do you relate to any of those? Drop it in the comments, let me know. And while you're doing that, let's chat about why perfectionism is a problem. What's some of the impacts that it can have on your career? Because sometimes you don't even notice that it's causing you a problem. Okay, so first of all, striving to be perfect can cause you a huge amount of stress, as it's very difficult to sustain over a long period of time. You can cause stress for those around you as they strive to live up to your perfect world demands. And striving to be perfect tends to keep you focused on the detail, which can distract you from the bigger picture, which can become a real problem as you scale the career ladder when you're expected to focus on the big picture, which you won't see if you're down in the weeds, right? Perfectionism can create a very negative mindset where you're bothered by every little thing that goes wrong, even the smallest of tasks. And striving perfection can set you up for disappointment because it's actually unrealistic. There is always room for improvement. So tell me, does that resonate with you? And let me know if you feel that your perfectionism has actually impacted your career. Have you noticed it? Have you felt it? And one thing I want you to be clear of, right? There's a huge difference between striving to do well and striving for perfection. We should all want to do well. The drive to deliver superb results is an asset. But when that strays into perfectionist tendencies, it can have a really negative impact on your career and your personal life. So I'm going to share a story. So a woman called Vera, I remember reading her story. And this woman, she had an amazing career, right? She was on track to achieve an executive position within her company. So she had already achieved a significant level of success as a perfectionist and didn't realise that it was going to start causing her problems because her perfectionism actually got in the way of her achieving her promotion. So part of the process that they go through in her organisation when you're going for promotion is for the management to go and ask for feedback from the people who had worked with you, so her colleagues. So they were all very respectful about what she had achieved, but they all commented on how they found her either over-controlling or judgmental, but difficult to work with. Some of the feedback was that she was so worried about failure that she ended up micromanaging her team. And to quote one of them saying, it was driving us all to exhaustion. Another person said, it's impossible to be relaxed around Vera because she's always so nervous that something will go wrong. So her colleagues had picked up on this and was feeding it back into Vera's management. She had also been identified as being risk adverse, which is a very common trait if you're always trying to be perfect. And so she was seen as someone who was insecure and lacked the confidence to be an effective leader. She didn't get that promotion. It's such a shame. You know, perfectionists often struggle with delegation. So if you have really, really high standards, it can be difficult to let go and trust other people to live up to them. In fact, because it's so time consuming, monitoring their efforts and correcting all their mistakes, as you think, that you may decide it's easier and quicker to just do the job for yourself. And so you end up with too many tasks on your plate, and it can quickly become overwhelming and stressful trying to juggle it all. And if you struggle with delegation at work, you may also find that you find it difficult at home as well. I want you to think about that. Think about it in both your lives, because it can be a problem in both your lives. You're just tend not to be a perfectionist in one. You can be a perfectionist in both. So you may take up the slack for your kids when they neglect to do their chores, or forget to tell you into the very last minute about some project they need to complete for school. And you see this quite a bit where, because of your perfectionist tendencies, you intervene. Just like you do at work, taking control to make sure it's done right. Taking away their responsibility and incentive to learn and grow and to get better. So just imagine how that plays out as they grow older and have never been taught to take personal responsibility. Okay, perfection doesn't just affect you, it can have a huge impact on those around you, like the feedback from Vera and like sometimes you might find in the home place. So if any of this relates for you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the 5 steps I take my clients through when coaching them. Okay? So I don't see any questions in the chat bar just yet, but if you have any, feel free to throw them in the chat bar while I'm doing this. If you're watching the replay, put your question or your comments below the video. I do try to go in every day and check to see if there's any comments. So if you have any questions, I will get back to you. Okay, so step 1. Any behaviour you have, like perfectionism, is a result of a belief that you have. So that's what I'd like you to think about now. At the start of this workshop, I asked you to jot down a few areas in your life that perfectionism is an issue for you. If you didn't do that, do it now. Where is perfectionism an issue for you in your life? Jot it down. Now think about what you believe. Why do you believe perfectionism is so important to you? What do you believe will happen if you aren't perfect in everything you do? Okay, so for some examples, it could be you believe your work will be rejected if it's not perfect, or you believe that other people just don't care as much as you do. Maybe you believe that perfection equals success and that being not perfect equals failure. I'll talk a bit more about that. But examine your beliefs and how they influence your perfectionist behaviour. Because once you understand the belief that drives your behaviour, you are in such a powerful position to make a change. That's the process all my clients go through to create the transformation in their lives. First step, understand the belief that's driving the behaviour. Okay, and if you feel comfortable sharing it in the comments, please do. And if not, don't worry about it. I know this can be personal for some of you. So the step 2, once you understand that belief, once you've identified it, you now have the choice to challenge that belief. That's the next step I take my clients through. And this stage can be so tough. I see so many of them struggle because you may not want to let go of your belief. You've held on to it for a very long time. You're comfortable with it. It sits well with you at the moment, as it did for Vera all through her career until she just got to that block. Your beliefs have shaped your values, your way of processing situations, so you make decisions based on your beliefs. And you know, when coaching clients through this process, I find it very interesting to listen to how many of them that will defend their beliefs and not want to let go. So I'll hear comments like, "Oh, it's just the way I am. Other people just don't care as much as I do. If I don't do it, nobody else will. Or it will get done properly if I just do it myself." Holding on very tightly to the beliefs that are in fact causing problems for them. The transformation comes once you're willing to let go of the old belief and adopt a new one. And honestly, that transformation can be so amazing and so liberating if you're just willing to go through the process. So in this step, I want you to think about what you could choose to believe instead. And I'll share some examples with you to get you started. If you believe your work will be rejected if it's not perfect, you could choose to believe that your work will never be rejected because you always deliver great quality. If you believe that other people just don't care as much as you do, you could choose to believe that everyone tries their best to do a good job. And if you believe that perfection equals success, you could choose to believe that success comes from consistent learning and improving. So do you get the idea? You're wanting to take your belief and you're wanting to change it to something that's much more empowering. Rather than holding you back into that perfectionist tendency, something that's going to allow you to let go of that tendency. Okay? And if you're stuck on the perfection equals success belief, I want you to think about this. All the great technology companies in the world never, ever release perfect products. Think about it. How many times every year does your computer, your tablet, your phone do some kind of software update? And have you ever wondered why it does that? One of the reasons why they do that is that there are fixes to problems being applied to your device and improvements to give you a better experience. That's what software updates are all about. And it happens all the time. There's never a year goes by when you don't get at least a couple of software updates on your phone and your laptop and your tablet. Because for a technology company, it is impossible to test every combination of hardware, software, operating system, apps, etc. and the way you use it. It's just too much to test. They would never get the product out the door. So they release a good enough product and then fix and patch as problems are found. And these are all successful companies. Microsoft, Apple, Samsung, IBM, to name but a few. Not perfect does not stop them from succeeding. Good enough is often all that's required. So think about what you could choose to believe to overcome your perfectionist belief. Okay, and again, let me know. What is the belief that sits with you at the moment? What would you change it to? Now, I know it's not easy. Trust me. I've been through this myself. It is a huge challenge. I take my clients through it all the time. It doesn't happen overnight. It comes from consistent taking action. Much the same as any other goal that you try to achieve. You know, your New Year's resolution. If you even have a New Year's resolution that you struggle to complete every year, try going through this process, taking a different approach. You'd be surprised at the outcome. Okay, so step 1, identify the belief that's behind the behaviour, the belief behind your perfectionist tendency. Step 2, choose, and beliefs are a choice. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with this. Choose to believe in a more empowering thought. So beliefs are not absolute truths. They're our truths in the moment. If you believe you're not good enough, that might not be the truth that everybody else sees. Somebody else might say she is good enough. You believe you're not. It's your truth, your personal. You've decided that in your head. So that belief is something that you can choose to change, because it's something you've chosen to create, a belief that you have. So find the belief, choose a new belief. Step 3 and 4, habits, goals, actions. So once you understand the belief, you'll understand that this is what's driving the way you behave. As soon as you know how you think drives your behaviours, then you're in a powerful position to change the way you think, change your behaviours. That's what it's all about. That's how you create new habits and behaviours. And importantly, you have a plan to execute it on, right? So, I'll give you an example. If your perfectionist tendency is that you do it yourself because it's easier and quicker, then a new habit you might want to adopt is starting to delegate more. And so you create the goal of delegating more work to your team, or delegating more responsibility at home. And then what you do is you create a plan. Decide what activities you're most comfortable delegating and start there. Looking to expand the activities you delegate as you become more comfortable with the process. So decide what perfectionist habit you want to replace and decide what you would like to do instead. Then set the goal and create the plan. So for those of you that just joined, I'm going through a 5-step process for changing your perfectionist tendencies. And if you're not sure why you need to change your perfectionist tendencies, then I'm going to have to ask you to watch the replay, because I talked about that at the beginning of the workshop. So step 1, belief. What is it you believe that drives you to that perfectionist behaviour? Step 2, what could you choose to do? Believe differently. Step 3 and 4, going through now, which is the habits, changing your habits, changing your behaviours. Okay, so we were talking about how that might look. So if your perfectionist habit is to do it yourself because it's quicker and easier, then a new habit would be to start delegating more. So the goal of delegating more, whether it's work, to your team, to your colleagues, delegating more responsibility at home, whatever it is, you set a plan and you start doing it. So decide what activities you're most comfortable delegating and start there. Look to expand the activities you delegate as you become more comfortable with the process. Okay, so decide what perfectionist habit you want to replace, decide what you would like to do instead, set the goal and create a plan. And if anyone's not sure how to do that, drop it in the comments and we can have a chat about it. But that's the process. What's the belief that drives the behaviour? What's the belief that would drive a different behaviour? And then what's the plan that you need to put into action to change those habits and behaviours? Okay, and then the final step, step 5, is about momentum. So one of the reasons people fail to achieve their goals is that they don't plan for experiencing problems or challenges. So when I'm coaching you, I'm looking for what might be that thing that trips you up or that sets you back, so I can help you plan for that. When trying to achieve your goals starts to feel tough, you start to lose momentum, you start to become demotivated, right? It's very easy to start to slip, to procrastinate, or to just quit. Hence all the failed New Year's resolutions, because nobody plans for what's going to happen when they don't feel as motivated as they did back in January when they set the goal. It'd be interesting how many of you have had goals that you set at the start of this year. We're nearly at the end. Are you slipping? Did you achieve them all? If not, possibly because you didn't have the right actions, you didn't follow this 5-step plan that I'm sharing with you. So the final step in my process is to make sure my clients prepare for what they'll do when things get tough. And that's what I want you to do now. Decide what you'll do when things get tough. Don't wait until it becomes tough. It's too late then. You've not got the same energy. But at the start, you've got the energy, you've got the motivation. So now's a good time to say, okay, if I start to slip, this is what I'm going to do. You've already decided. So you don't have to think about it when it happens, if it happens. So the first thing is, mentioned already, have your goals and action plans written down, documented, scheduled in your diary. It's already there. Takes away part of the planning. Secondly, know what you'll do if your situation changes and you need to make a slight adjustment to your action plan. So is there something that could potentially change that would make it more difficult? And then what would you need to do differently? So if your situation was to change at work, how would you have to adjust for that? Then decide what you do when you start to feel demotivated and you notice that you're reverting back to your perfectionist habits. So you need to really raise your awareness of your behaviours and habits and what you're doing and how your thinking is controlling your behaviours and habits. You know, as a coach, it's easy to watch people. I can hear it when they're talking. I can hear when they're starting to slip back into old patterns. And so I can help intervene. If you're doing it for yourself, you need to raise that level of awareness so that you can see when you're reverting back so you can intervene. Okay, but what you want to do right now is work out, well, what will you do when you notice that? When you notice that feeling of demotivation, or you notice you start doing the perfectionist habits, how are you going to intervene at that point in time? And finally, I would say get yourself an accountability partner who will keep you on track. One of the things that seems to be a typical human behaviour is that we are more motivated when we commit something to someone else than if we commit it to ourselves. And it's terrible. It shouldn't be like that. We should put ourselves first. But for whatever reason, if we commit to, if you think about some of the goals you set, if you've had some kind of fitness goal, I'm going to start going to the gym, and you maybe do it at first and then you lose the momentum and you give up. But if you and a friend say, we're going to start going to the gym, then you don't stop. You keep going because you don't want to let your friend down. And the same with your friend. She doesn't want to let you down. So you both keep going. So you keep each other on track. So that's what you want here as well. Whether if it's at work, if it's a colleague, a mentor, whoever, at home, it could be a partner, it could be a friend. If you need professional help, it could be a coach like myself. Right? But whatever you choose, having an accountability partner helps you keep on track, helps you keep up that momentum. Okay, so before I wrap up, that's covered off on the 5 steps. So before we summarise that, I just want to quickly say, for any of you listening, you've been very quiet in the chat bar today. So if you've got any questions, any comments, now's the time to get them in there. So we've only got 5 minutes left of the half hour. So while you're doing that, just to summarise, so what I've just shared with you today is my 5-step process to greater confidence. But the 5 steps are for any behaviour change. Whether you want to become more confident, whether you don't want to be a perfectionist, whether you want to become a fitter individual, whatever behaviour or habit you want to change, my 5 steps is a process that you can use over and over and over again to help you achieve it. Okay, so the first step is identify the beliefs that are influencing your behaviour. That's the first step. I gave some examples earlier on. Second step, work out what you choose to believe to drive a new behaviour. Remember I said that the belief that you have, that everything has to be perfect, you're choosing to believe that. Not everybody believes that. That's your choice. You can choose to let go on that and choose a different belief. You have to be willing to do that. The third step, and that's the hardest step actually. You might think behaviour change is the hardest step, but sometimes it's the changing your beliefs that's the hardest step because you hold on so tightly to what you've believed for a very long time. The third step then is to identify the new habits that you want to replace those perfectionist habits. So this is where the behaviour change comes in. This is the mindset change. Steps 1 and 2 is all about changing your mindset. Steps 3 and 4 is all about changing your behaviour. So decide what the new habits are going to be. 4th step is to then set yourself achievable goals and plans. So if your perfectionist behaviour is something like, as I mentioned, problem delegating, then start creating a plan of how to delegate more effectively. And then finally, create momentum. So know now what you're going to do when things start to get tough. Who are you going to turn to? What's the process? What's the trigger point that's going to then set you off on that plan to regain the motivation, regain the momentum? And sometimes it's going back through the loop. Maybe you have to go back through the loop and reassess what habits and behaviours you want to change. But it's a 5-step process that you can loop around as many times as you want. Okay. So I see a comment there. Is it best to have more than one accountability partner, for example, a friend and a work colleague? It can be. Okay. And it's really about what works for you and what behaviour it is you're trying to change. So for example, if your perfectionist behaviour is something that you want to change specifically at work, then absolutely pick somebody who is in the workplace with you. Because one of the things you might want to do is, as I say, part of this process is raising your awareness of when you're slipping into those behaviours. So if you have somebody you work with who's very aware of that behaviour and can help you to identify when you're slipping back into it, that can be quite useful. Other things, you might feel more comfortable bringing it outside the workplace and talking to a friend, a partner, a coach, someone who's not directly part of your workplace environment. So it really is up to you. If your perfectionist tendencies are at home, so you don't want to talk to your partner or your children about it, then maybe you need a different kind of help. I know there's lots of relationship coaches out there. There's lots of parenting coaches out there. So again, it's finding the right person for you at that point in time, and it can change. So if I think about my own journey, I've right through my journey and in terms of setting up my business and running my business, I'm always changing the people who are helping me, because at different points in my journey I need different types of help. So different coaches and trainers as I've gone through my journey. So that's what you need to do. Hope that answers your question, Teresa. Okay, so I don't see any other questions, so I am going to wrap up for today. I hope you found that helpful. Next week we are talking about negotiating with confidence. So if you struggle with the word negotiate and it sends you into palpitations of fear, come join us. I'm going to put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to go and register now. And hope to see some of you there. Thanks so much for the comments. Thanks for the feedback, Teresa. Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. That's all for today. Have a lovely afternoon. Enjoy your weekend and talk to you again next week. Bye for now.